You ever feel like you don't even know what you want anymore? Like you used to have a clear vision for your life, but now the more you try to figure it out, the more stuck you feel? If that sounds familiar, you are not alone. And actually, there is a reason why this happens because you have been conditioned to look outside of yourself for answers. But the truth is, you already have the wisdom you need. You just have to learn how to trust it again. So, welcome back to the Magic Mindfulness podcast, where we explore how to take yoga and mindfulness off the mat and into everyday life. I'm your host, Rachel Hupp, and if you are here, I am guessing that you are on a journey to feel more aligned, more at peace, and more you. So, this is part two of my series on the life changing magic of yoga off the mat, where we are talking about self trust, why we lose it, and most importantly, how to get it back. Now, in the last episode, we talked about the deeper wisdom behind yoga and why this practice is about so much more than just the physical poses. So, if you haven't watched that yet, I highly recommend going back to start there. But today, we're going to focus on something that I see all the time. And that, my friend, is the struggle to trust yourself again. So, why do we lose self trust in the first place? Well, if you're anything like me, you have probably had moments where you just knew something deep in your gut, right? That gut feeling, that gut reaction. But instead of listening to that inner voice, you started second guessing yourself. You made a different decision. And then later, you realized that you were right all along. And that is because, like so many of us, you have been trained to doubt yourself, my friend. From a very young age, we are praised for being good girls when we follow the rules, when we listen to authority, when we meet expectations. Over time, though, we have learned that other people must know better than we do. And we stop listening to ourselves. We don't lose self trust, it's there all along. We just stop listening to it. There's actually a concept in yoga called pratyahara, or withdrawal of the senses. And it's pretty deep. We can go into it for quite some time, but essentially it's about learning how to tune out external noise so that you can actually tap into your own inner voice, your intuition again. And that is what's happening when we stop trusting ourselves, right? We've been conditioned to listen to everything except our own inner voice. That wisdom, that inner knowing, that intuition, it's still there. But instead of strengthening it, we have been trained to tune it out. Now, I know this because I have been there. When I was 31, I was buying my first house. You may have heard this story before. I had two choices. Now, one part of me had always dreamed of living out in the woods. I had imagined it ever since I was a kid. My family, my dad, my granddaddy, my uncles, my mom, my aunt, they all built this little one room cabin way back in the woods in West Virginia when I was a kid. I was three. I helped, which means I probably was underfoot and in the way. But ever since I was little, I have imagined living in the woods. In fact, I thought I was going to grow up and live in that house, even though there was no way to drive in. Funny story, now I live in a cabin at the top of a mountain in the woods. And in the wintertime, like right now, I can't get a car up here. I hike in and out. So be careful what you wish for. But coming back to my story of buying my first house, ever since I was a kid, I dreamed about living in the woods. But when I was 31, I was also going out a lot. I was meeting my friends for coffee or brunch or happy hour. And so I thought, maybe I should live downtown because then I could walk everywhere. And, I knew that that house wasn't my lifetime house, like my lifelong house. The cabin I'm in now, sure. But, that was my first house. It was just a stepping stone. So I was like, well, it might be cool to live downtown where I can just walk to everything. I could not decide what I wanted for the life of me. I made pros and cons lists. I meditated. I journaled. I asked for advice. But you know what? No matter what I did, I still could not decide. And so, guess what? In the end, I picked neither one. I compromised and I chose something that I thought would give me the best of both worlds. But it didn't really give me what I wanted at all. What I chose was a spot in between the two, a little suburb. And so what I ended up with was a house with neighbors on every single side. And I could drive to downtown, which was about a 20-minute drive, or I could run, walk, or drive to hiking trails. probably just a couple miles away if I walked. I mean, it was walking distance. But at the same time, I didn't get fully immersed in either of those worlds that I was looking for. And so a few years later, I ended up selling that house and buying my cabin in the woods where I live now. And we've all got a story like that. Looking back, I can see that I already knew what I wanted from the start. I just didn't trust myself enough to follow my own inner knowing, to listen to my own inner voice. So that's my personal example. I'm sure you have one too. But now I want to talk to you a little bit about 3 reasons why we lose trust in ourselves. So, reason number one is that we have been conditioned to prioritize external validation, validation from things that come from outside of us. And we touched on this a little bit before. In yoga, we have a practice called svadhyaya or self study. And so, this is the process of turning inward, of getting curious about ourselves instead of looking for external approval from others. But most of us were not taught to trust our own voices. Instead, we were conditioned to believe somebody else's way was better, that somebody else always knows better. And so, over time, we've kind of stopped listening to ourselves because we haven't really needed to, right? And so there's this disconnect. And this disconnect, it often shows up in the throat chakra, the energy center that is tied to our self expression and our truth. So if you're not familiar with the chakra system, it is a um, energetic system, the subtle energy body, and there are 7 primary chakras. We could go into this all day, but the chakra, the energy center that is located at the throat, this is the one, like I said, that is tied to your truth and your self expression. So if you've ever felt like you don't know what you want, chances are you do. You do know what you want deep down in your heart, deep down in your soul. You've just been conditioned to silence your inner knowing. Now, the second reason that I want to touch on, one of the most powerful reasons why we tend to lose that trust in ourselves is because we are afraid of making the wrong decision. We put so much pressure on ourselves to get it right. Any other perfectionists out there? I'm raising my hand. We get stuck in indecision, analysis paralysis, right? I've been there. I have to be very mindful not to allow myself to get stuck there. And I, even so, still find myself stuck there from time to time. We're afraid of making the wrong decision. And then the third reason that we tend to lose that connection to our own inner wisdom is that we just don't know how to listen to it anymore. We've spent so many years, so much time looking outside of ourselves, looking outward for answers, that we have forgotten how to tune in, how to listen to our own inner voice. And so, again, just these 3 reasons why we lose trust in ourselves. We prioritize external validation. We are afraid that we're going to make the wrong choice. And we don't know how to listen inward anymore. So, how do we start rebuilding that trust in ourselves, that self trust? Well, my friend, the good news is that you don't have to overhaul your entire life. You can start with one simple shift today. So, you want to start by trusting yourself in small decisions. What do I feel like eating? What kind of music do I want to listen to? What would bring me joy in this moment? In yoga, we have a concept called tapas or disciplined effort. It's the idea that transformation, lasting transformation, happens in small, consistent actions, not overnight breakthroughs, right? We're not trying to overhaul our entire life overnight. And so, this is exactly how we rebuild self trust, not by making one massive decision, but by choosing to listen to ourselves in the little moments every single day. So, by choosing to listen to ourselves in those little moments every single day, that's how we're going to build the self trust. Every single time you make a choice based on what feels right to you, what feels aligned to you, you're strengthening your confidence. And so, the more you trust yourself, the stronger that confidence grows. The stronger that confidence grows, the more you trust yourself. And so, I want to talk to you a little bit about when I found myself in this situation where I realized that I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know who I was anymore. How did I start this process? Well, this was several years ago. I had left a long term relationship, and, I just kind of felt completely lost. I didn't really know what I wanted anymore, what made me happy, how I wanted to spend my time now that I could do with it what I wanted. And so, Instead of trying to figure it all out at once, I started by just asking myself small questions. What would make me happy right now? How do I want to spend this one day that's in front of me? What would bring me joy in this moment? And, I have to tell you that this comes up a lot with the women that I work with. So many women tell me that I don't even know what I want anymore. I've lost touch with who I am. I don't feel like I know who I am anymore. But usually they do. It just takes some peeling back of the layers to uncover it. They've been conditioned to ignore it, to tamp it down, to put other people's needs ahead of their own. And so, one of the things that we do inside Wildly Aligned Women is we practice tuning in to small moment to moment decisions without overthinking them. We practice speaking our truth from a place of compassion and gentle understanding. And so, that's what I'm going to invite you to do today, to tune into the small moment to moment decisions. So, depending on what time of day you are listening to this, either before the day is over or when you wake up tomorrow, I'm going to invite you to make one small decision, just one, purely based on what feels right to you. No pros and cons list, no overthinking it, no perfection. What is it called? Analysis paralysis. No polling your friends, no phone a friend. Just a simple, what feels good right now? Are you going to try it? Let me know. If you do, let me know how it goes. And so, just to recap, you probably second guess yourself because you've been conditioned to, right? We've been conditioned to look outside of ourselves for answers. The reality is, the truth is that you already have the wisdom you need within you, my friend. You just have to learn how to trust it again. We talked about why this happens, the biggest ways that we lose trust in ourselves, and a simple practice that you can start using today to help rebuild that confidence in your inner voice, your inner truth, your intuition. Yoga philosophy teaches us that self-trust, it's not something that we have to earn. It's something that we already have. You just have to remember it, right? We have to remember how to listen to it. We have to remember how to tap into it. Thing is, trusting ourselves is not about doing more. It's about peeling back the layers that keep you from being able to hear yourself. And so, as you start to rebuild that trust in yourself, as you start to rebuild that self trust, there's one thing that you're going to want to watch out for because a lot of people get stuck here. Maybe you've read the books like me, listened to the podcast, journaled about it, and I'm raising my hand to all three of those for those of you who are listening and not watching. I've read the books, I've listened to the podcast, I've journaled about it, I've meditated about it. We still feel stuck, right? And so that's why in the next video or in the next episode, I'm going to break down some of the biggest reasons that women stay stuck in self-doubt, even when they are actively trying to make a change, and what actually works instead. So, if this resonated with you, be sure to watch the next video or tune into the next episode in the series. And if you are ready to go even deeper, Wildly Aligned Women is where we take all of these concepts and actually integrate them into your daily life in a very grounded, mindful, slow, and steady kind of way. So you're not just learning about self-trust, but you're actually living it in a way that feels grounded and aligned for you. All right, my friend, I cannot wait to see you in the next episode. And don't forget, drop a comment and let me know what is one small decision that you are going to trust yourself with today. I would love to hear from you.